guys for being here. First of all of our guests. This is our third annual networking and mentoring event, film-focused event that we started 2 years ago because we listened to you. We listened to our industry members when we asked, what they needed or what was missing in the industry or whatnot. And so one of the big components is networking. We had incredible music. Let's give a hand to the Ali Loren Project. But we obviously support the film and music industry, and what better way to kick off the event than with some just eclectic, beautiful music, voices, and instruments up here. It was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed it and had a chance to network a little bit. Again, that has been sort of a resounding request, is just you're all working so hard out in the industry in so many different facets that it's important to come together at events like this. And then in a couple of weeks or 4 weeks we'll have the opportunity to come together again at Dead Center Film Festival. There's film festivals all over the state. The feedback is a little bit bothering me. Anybody else? Is there anything?
It's bothering me, yeah.
It's bothering you? Can't see Kyle. Got to be able to see my guys up here. So again, just thanks to you guys being here. And the other component to tonight, in addition obviously to just networking, is the mentoring aspect. And when we started this series 2 years ago, we said, let's bring somebody from the outside in to mentor our industry members on various levels of producing and whatnot, and share some wisdom from the outside world. And then this year we just said, we've got so much talent right here. And so this wonderful panel of our guests up here with me, we really felt strongly that they are in positions and poised to be able to mentor and just impart some of the experiences that they've had in their successes here, and really vice versa. There's a lot of talent in the room as well. And so I think it's important, wherever we are in our lives and our careers, is to be willing to be mentored too, but to also find somebody to mentor. So hopefully you'll get a little bit of that here this evening. So just a couple of little announcements. I wanted to thank some of our Studio Oklahoma partners. This year, our main partner is the Paramount Room in this beautiful space that you're in. So give them a big round of applause. And Studio Oklahoma, just for the record, in case you didn't know, it was something that we also started a couple of years ago when we were popping up at events here locally in state. We were going out of state to places like Sundance Film Festival or Nashville, to the Americana Festival and multiple other places. And we had like-minded community partners that said, we want to get in the vehicle with you and go places. So we have had probably over 30 different Studio Oklahoma partners join us around the country. And then they've also, of course, showed their local support here at events like this. And they're just, they might give monetary contributions to help us travel or whatnot, or just space, like this beautiful space, because they also, want to show their support to this industry and see it grow as we do. So that's just, a big thanks again to the Paramount Room. Elizabeth is sneaking through right now. They're expanding. I think I'm safe to say that they're actually expanding their event space into this whole back area right here. So just keep your eye out for more space to rent or whatnot there. So before I introduce our wonderful panelists up here, I am always very curious who is in the room. So we get the RSVP list, we see who's coming. Some of you bring friends, and that's awesome. But just a quick show of hands so all of us up here know who's in the room. So if you are a filmmaker, raise your hand. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, we could make 2 movies, 3 movies with all these people. If you're an actor, awesome. If you are a Oklahoma-based business, so we've got Doug Scott up here, we've got Nathan Gardaki, Wait, let's see that again, sorry. Okay, that's awesome. And then who else? Filmmakers would include writers and everyone. Students, oh, that's a good one. Students, do we have students? Oh, that's cool. Awesome, so you're our future. You are a vital component to this industry. Yeah, right. So awesome. Anybody else? Other? I saw a name tag that said other. I was laughing. But I think that's the miscellaneous. You're other? Okay. I guess I fall into that too. Craft services, yeah, that's good. All right, are you guys ready to meet our, I cannot believe this. I can believe this. All three of our guests here are Emmy award-winning filmmakers. Isn't that awesome? So I am going to start and just introduce them very briefly. You all have their full bios in your hands, hopefully with your program. But we have, I would say, an eclectic group up here. So we have, to my right, is Ryan Bellgard. He was born and raised in Oklahoma, started his career back in the late 90s in broadcasting, and then just discovered a passion for filmmaking. Learned every aspect, I think, from beginning to end and everything in between, and made his first feature, Army of Frankenstein, in, what year was that?
2013, 14?
2013, so not that long ago, actually. And now he is currently, and I'm kind of doing a quick overview, he's doing his fourth full-length feature here in Oklahoma called The Adventures of Jurassic Pet, and they are actually filming as we speak. So let's welcome Ryan Bellgard. So Kyle Roberts is also Emmy Award-winning director of over 10 years, and he started his career at News OK. We love our friends at News OK and the Oklahoman here. And he I just want to call you a big kid because he is just having fun, living out his passion, and you found a way to do it. So I'm excited for the audience to hear how you fell into all of that. But he has made lots of different projects, Post-Human Project, which was a coming-of-age teen superhero movie. Who wouldn't love that? And just tells some great stories, and has won 7 Best Feature Awards and Best Director at the Orlando Film Festival. So, huge accolades for our Oklahoma grown talent up here. So let's give Kyle Roberts a big welcome. What happened?
I told him he was done, he can leave.
Okay, yeah. Take your bow. Right. And then to the far right is Russ Kirkpatrick.
Also a kid,
yeah. I guess we all are big kids. So he came in from Tulsa today. He's based out of Tulsa. He has over 30 years of experience in television and radio. And I love that he just cares, as I think we all do probably, but he just cares so much about the heart of the story and messaging, and he tells some great stories through different documentaries and narrative features that you'll get to hear about later. But he sort of runs the gamut with his company, which oversees from financing to really discovering content all the way through distribution, and help see that process through. So I think that you will enjoy hearing from him later. So let's give Russ Kirkpatrick a welcome. All right. So how we're going to start is just, I've got a few different questions. I'm a note taker, and I've got to kind of have my little cheat sheet. So I think it's important. We'd love to get to know you, each one of you, deeper as well, but I know that's not why we're here, and I've talked to you, some of you, just before this briefly in the networking hour, and there are people in the room that are literally getting ready to start production companies. So I know that's the core, the reason that we're here, But I think it's important for you to hear a little bit of their journey getting to where they are. So we're just going to do a quick round, kind of like a writer's round, and we're going to do a quick get to know. And I just think it's interesting how people get to where they are. Just a little side tidbit is just very interesting to me. Everybody knows the director, wears a lot of hats, Robert Rodriguez, right? People call him the one-man show. But he, hasn't always been a filmmaker. He actually couldn't even get into film school because of his grades weren't good enough, and so he just signed up for cartooning in school. And one thing led to another. For 3 years, he actually wrote a comic strip about his family, all the characters in his family, because he's got a huge family. And he just wrote a comic strip with the text at whatever it was, the local paper at his school for 3 years. And sort of one thing led to another to where he just would never let it go, his passion of he wanted to learn film and wanted to be a filmmaker. He couldn't get accepted into film school then, so he just eventually found a way, and not to get into Robert Rodriguez's bio or anything, but it's interesting because he, back in the day, he actually made a film for $7,000 that he begged, borrowed, and stealed from people, and edited between 2 VCRs, and then cut to now. He owns a huge studio in Austin, Texas, and has made so many different films. Has a huge production company employing so many people, and is a renowned director and filmmaker. So it's just interesting to me. I love hearing. It's all about stories. Stories connects us, and we all want to hear that. So I'll kick it off with you, Ryan, just to just take us back to a little bit of your journey, just sort of diving into, I guess, becoming a young adult and deciding if you were did you go to film school? Were you self-taught? And then sort of your journey into the filmmaking world.
I didn't go to film school. No, I didn't. I actually wanted to be a film composer before I ever wanted to be a film director. Thank you. Yeah, Aaron, yeah. I grew up loving music and wanted to be a musician, and was, played in rock bands around town and things like that. Big fan of Chainsaw Kittens. Yeah, there he is. Thank you. So I ended up going to college at UCO to study music. And I did that for a couple of years and realized that I was on the path to becoming a band director, like a marching, and that really wasn't what I wanted to do. So I ended up going to America. I dropped out of college, and my mom, I worked at Hidden Tires for a while, and my mom said on a snow day, "Hey, I saw the American Broadcasting School was closed." She says, "I think you'd be really good at that. Maybe you should look into doing that." So I was like, okay, if you're going to pay for it, sure. So I went to American Broadcasting School and kind of fell in love with it. I really did. It was radio. They taught radio, and it was really cool. I really liked it, and kind of I fell in love with broadcasting and radio, and got a job at the oldie station KOMA, and I worked with Danny Williams for about 10 years as his sidekick and producer on the morning show on KOMA, Danny Williams and the Breakfast Flakes, and I went as... my name was Ryan O'Brien on air because I thought Sherry O'Terry from Saturday Night Live was so cool. But I know, right? So anyway, that's the name that I was stuck with for 10 years on there. But as I was doing that, I was able to parlay having, one lesson Danny taught me was he said, you'll never make a lot of money being an on-air DJ, but you can use being an on-air DJ to make money. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, and this is what I learned, is that I started going into business for myself doing commercial jingles. I took my music background and started writing music for commercials and doing jingles and stuff like that. I did the Edmund Hyundai jingle, which I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard infamously. Notice there's no standing ovation for that. Thank you. I did, and I did a lot of them over the years, enough so that I started my own company where I was doing custom music and custom radio production for people. I had always loved just creating in general, just whether it was music or anything. And I kind of got into doing filmmaking. I hate to take so much time. It's a long story, but I'll try to make it short. In about 2006, I was doing a puppet show around the libraries, and a company just happened to see a company hired me to do podcasting back in those days because they thought they could sell podcasting to companies. Well, they couldn't. And they had this capital, and they were like, "Well, what are you working on?" And I was like, "Well, I've got this little kids puppet show I'm doing around the libraries in Oklahoma," and they said, "Well, that would be a cool TV show." And I was like, "Okay," and they were like, "Here's $100,000. We know people in Hollywood. Here's $100,000. Make a few episodes of this TV show, and we're going to go sell it to Disney or something." And I was like, "Great, cool." So I did that. I took that budget, and I was only able to make one, but that was film school. Okay, I learned how to do. I didn't know anything about directing anything at all, but I think I saw on the back of a Muppet DVD that they built sets. And it was a puppet show, so I was like, okay, the puppets have to be this high and the actors have to be... So I knew we had to build like platforms, and that was all I really knew. I hired a videographer to help me. I hired a guy to make puppets. I hired set builders. I was a producer. I didn't even know what I was doing. And as I was doing that, I was doing a blog or a production diary online, and a guy named Nate Pacheco in Los Angeles found the blog somehow and contacted me and said, "Hey, I love puppets. I think they're so cool, and I'm seeing what you're doing here, and I really want to help. I'm an animator in Los Angeles." And he had worked on Mulan and South Park, and he'd worked on a lot of stuff. And he was like, "Me and my friends want to make the opening intro of your show." And I was like, "Well, I'm completely out of money. That sounds cool." And he was like, "No, we'll do it like on nights and weekends for like $1,000." And that goes without saying, that was by far the best part of the whole thing. But it was my first introduction into directing. And so Nate calls me out of the blue one day and says, "Hey, Michelle up at Disney Channel is looking for content, and I told her about your show. She wants you to fly to Burbank and come and see us." And so I got on the plane to Burbank and went to the top floor of the Disney Channel, and I was just like sweating bullets. I couldn't believe I was there, and it was just like, it was so surreal. And I go into the office, and we spend about 45 minutes pitching my show, and I have a little pitch Bible, and showing her my characters and everything. And she was like, she said two things that I'll never forget. She said, one, she's like, "Well, your villain's a little bit too scary for our demographic, so I'm not sure." But she said, "But this is one of those shows that if we don't get it, we'll see it on Nickelodeon." Right? I remember that. I'll never forget that. And we get in the elevator going down, and Nate, who was with me, starts high-fiving me, and he's like, "That's the best pitch meeting I've ever been in, man. You got this. I've never been in there longer than 10 minutes. I can't believe how well that went." And so I was thinking, dude, I just sold a show to Disney, And I didn't. They didn't buy it. But she called me later, and she's like, "Yeah, your villain's a little bit too scary, but good luck." And I wanted to be like, "Do you have the number for Nickelodeon?" So that was an amazing experience. Through that experience, I met Lucas Ross, which I know a lot of you guys know, who's a local television talent, and he's a puppeteer and banjo player and just, all-around talented guy around here. He and I became great friends, and we started doing a thing on television called Two Movie Guys locally, which was somebody saw it, wow. Which was a little interstitials we did on Saturday nights. Same weird thing happened, right? We're just, no one's paying us to do this. We're just doing it for fun. And the TV station let us do it. I'm not kidding, this is a true story. A guy in Miami, Florida is sitting on the toilet and YouTubing Oklahoma television because he used to work here back in the day. And he saw Linda Cavanaugh on a YouTube video. And he clicked on Linda Cavanaugh. Well, it was Linda Cavanaugh interviewing Lucas and I about Two Movie Guys. He goes on our website and watches like the whole entire, like everything we had done on our website, calls us up and says, "I think you guys could have a show on TV. We're going to fly you out to," he's a producer for ITV. We're going to.
Still on the toilet?
He's still on the toilet. I think so. We're going to fly you out to LA, and we did another round of pitches. And that time we met with 11 different networks. I know, Kyle, you've been through a similar situation. We did 11 different networks, got rejected by every single one of them. I remember Fox. We were sitting at Fox, and the guy's like, "So I'm supposed to like kick off Conan O'Brien and put you guys on?" And I was like, "Hey, man, you didn't have to see us, But anyway,
The answer is yes.
Yeah, right. Oh, I asked you to say. I know that was the problem. I didn't say yes. Anyway, they rejected us again, and we didn't get. But people were like, "Well, hey, is your puppet show? Do you consider that a failure? Do you consider Two Movie Guys a failure?" I was like, "Oh no, man! I learned so much going through all that." I started as I was getting into video and doing that with Lucas. I started to work with Boiling Point Media, and at the time, advertising agency and production company. And when you think about production company locally, you might think more of like people that make television commercials or corporate videos, things like that. And that's what I was hired to do there. As the years went on, I saw a film that my friend had made called Wolfhead. They made it for like $6,000 on DSLRs. And I thought, whoa, that looks really good. Ryan Scott, who's a Dead Center alum, made that movie. And I was just like, man, and going to Dead Center too. I remember going to Dead Center, looking at watching the directors talk about their movies, and I'm like, I want to be that guy, And so Josh was the DP on Wolfhead. I hired him at Bowling Point to be a producer with us, working on television commercials. And about 5 years ago now, I was like, man, we have this crazy idea for this movie, Army of Frankensteins, about Frankenstein monsters that go back and fight in the Civil War. And we thought that's so crazy and funny, and we were just like, we're going to do it. We're going to figure out a way to do it. And so our company helped finance it a little bit. It didn't cost us very much money to make it. It took us about 8 months to shoot it on nights and weekends, all on our free time, using local talent. And then that turned into, people asked me when we were starting to make that movie, what are your plans? And I said, well, I don't know. I hope I can have a screening. I hope I can finish it, And that was, I said, I promise we'll finish it, and then we'll have a screening. Well, I didn't realize what would happen is that we were able to get contacted by a sales agent. And if you guys don't know what sales agents are basically the connection between you and a distributor or a buyer. Okay, so you've got the Lionsgates and the Shout Factories, the Uncorks, the Universals, all those people in the world don't really take just solicited material from a filmmaker. A sales agent needs to present that because a sales agent has the relationship with the buyers. Well, a sales agent contacted us about Army of Frankensteins, multiple ones did actually, and Galen Christie from High Octane Pictures was the one that we signed on with. We got lucky because we made a movie that was an international sales movie. And that's a term that I'll use a lot when we're talking because it's important to understand the difference between like a movie you might make for a festival and a movie you might make for international sales and distribution. A movie that you make for international sales and distribution has appeal to all different broad audiences across the world. Asia, the UK, Germany, Australia, France, Portugal, the Philippines, everywhere. There's hundreds of different territories that could potentially buy your movie. When I say buy your movie, that means they'll give you a minimum guarantee, sometimes not, but if you make the right kind of movie, they'll give you a minimum guarantee and a back-end split to then have the rights to release your movie in their territory. And so the movies we're making now are completely structured to do just that. With Army of Frankensteins, we had a little stroke of luck because people were looking for that type of movie, and we had it. And then it did okay. It didn't do great. It didn't do gangbusters. We were excited, and you could go buy it at Best Buy and stuff, but it didn't mean I was rich or anything like that. I went to our sales agent and said, what can I do next that will fly off the shelf? Like, what can I make that's going to be like very popular at the film market? And I don't know if you guys know, the American film market happens every year in Santa Monica. I know you guys were there last year. But it's where filmmakers from all across the country, agents from all across the country meet, the buyers from all across the world, and pitch movies for the buyers to buy. And I realized that if you could make the right kind of movie, that you would have a movie that they would be fighting over, not one that would just fade away into obscurity there. And so our second movie, Gremlin, did much better than Army of Frankensteins. It was made on a much cheaper budget. But Jurassic Games, our third movie, was the one we took there last November, and it had bidding wars. Like Japan had a bidding war on it, the UK had a bidding war on it, because we listened to what our sales agent was brilliant in listening to what buyers want, and then translating that to a film that is ready to be consumed by the buyer. And we're not talking about making a film for an audience of like viewers. I'm talking about making a film for the buyers. And the buyers have very specific kind of things they're looking for. So now, fast forward to where we are now, and we have production companies and distributors hiring us to make movies because they're finding the trend is easier to have production companies make movies for them that are exactly what they need rather than find a pre-made movie that kind of fits what they need. And they know very specifically what they're looking for and what they need. So that's where Boiling Point Media is now. We're about 15 people strong, and I've got CG specialists and animators and post-production people and a bunch of people on staff that we are now working on producing these movies that distributors are hiring us to make. I'm sorry that took so long, but that's
a lot like advertising too.
Yeah, it is, and I'd like to say that I started in advertising, and so Boiling Point Media started out, and it still is, an advertising company, and I'm glad you said that, Kyle, because it's the way I approach filmmaking is very much from a marketer's and advertiser's perspective. I still love it, and I still have the artistic craving to make a good movie, but
your client or whatever.
Exactly, but you've got a client who comes in with a list of bullet points, and then me as the creative, I've been doing that for 20 years. I've been translating what clients want into their finished product, into a creative product for 20 years. It's very simple, really, to make that transition into filmmaking. And so that's why we're able to make movies that are making money. And so when you make a movie that makes money, I can employ people, and then I can bring in other people that hopefully as we grow, get other teams involved. I was just talking to the Burns brothers about hey, I need teams like you guys to direct and produce these movies because I could make 10 movies a year if I had the infrastructure. So that's what I'm trying to do here in Oklahoma is grow a studio scenario here that it is fruitful, that can employ people. It's really cool because nobody cares in a disparaging way that the movies are made in Oklahoma. It doesn't matter. Nobody's looking at this and saying, well, since it's made in Oklahoma and not Atlanta or not Los Angeles, I'm not interested. They don't care. They just want a quality product, and they love the idea of the rebate incentive program where they can get cash back on their money spent here. And so we're getting companies from France and the UK saying, we want you guys to produce our movies in Oklahoma because we want the cash rebate incentive, and the quality that you guys are getting is fine for what we need. And so that's where we are. And I'm here to say, I feel like I just said everything, probably, sorry, but
Yeah, you went through
all the questions.
No.
But
That's
like,
cool, it'll be Kyle's turn next.
well, we can do it here. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
yeah.
It's we can do it here. And what I want to do is just let everyone know that you don't have to be in LA to do it. You don't have to be in Los Angeles. Honestly, this is kind of funny, but and I apologize, I'm about to say a curse word, but it makes it funnier. One of my favorite.
You can't pronounce it.
I can't. Okay, sorry. I'm bad at that. One of the best things I think people can say about our movies that makes me laugh and makes me the most proud is when a YouTube commenter will say, I can't believe the shit Hollywood's putting out nowadays. And they're talking about our movies, And I think that's you know what I'm saying? I think that's great. I mean, it's wow, they thought it was a Hollywood movie. That's awesome, So, yeah, right? So, but no, I mean, we can go into all that, but I want to give Kyle a chance.
But tell us the point of which, you opened the doors at Boiling Point to today having 15 staff members.
Well, it's still in its.
It's evolved.
It's evolved,
Right.
but the movie we're filming now is the first movie that a company came to us and said, here's the story we want to tell, here's the budget that we have, we've seen what you guys can do, we want to take advantage of the film incentive, and here's the budget, make us the movie.
Right.
It's the first time we've done that. I can do that over and over and over, especially, and they came on set with us the first few days. It was pretty nerve-wracking because these guys are, from France.
Right.
So, and they're the Ace Entertainment's a very big distributor in France. Their output deal in the United States is Lionsgate and things like that. So it's pretty big. And the reach for this film is going to be much bigger than anything we've done. They came on set. They felt comfortable enough after seeing a few days of us on set and working that they said, okay, we want to sign you guys to 2 more movies. So at that point, I have the guaranteed income coming in that I'm okay, I can have my staff hired, I can have my expenses covered, and that's where it comes the delicate task at that point to make sure that I can make this movie for the budget they're giving me, and then make sure that I'm building in enough for the expenses I have and making sure that we're able to do it. The movies I did before were on a much different sort of financial sort of setup, so they're not quite the same, and each movie is different, but I want to build a system where we're making movies like that, and I'm getting teams involved that are helping me do those things. And then you get to the point where Galen said this from the very beginning. Galen's a sales agent. He said, Ryan, you do 4 or 5 of these movies and distributors will start asking you what you want to do. And I think the mistake a lot of filmmakers make is they think that that's where you start. You start with a brilliant script or a brilliant movie or a brilliant idea and think that that's going to be the thing that's going to launch you into the stratosphere as a filmmaker. I'm not saying it can't happen. It does, and it has. But I find Galen to be correct. As we move forward and as we do more of these, it's very fascinating to hear him tell me stories about being in Cannes and some filmmaker from Poland, a distribution company in Poland who he's never even heard of, comes in and says, what's Ryan's team making next? And Galen will pitch him something like, oh, well, Ryan's got a space opera he's really wanting to do. And then the guy's like, I really wish he'd do another dinosaur movie, So, and that influences kind of like, oh, maybe we need to be thinking about doing another dinosaur movie first. So, but Galen's right. I mean, people will start asking for what we're doing across the world, and I think that's a cool place to be in. And then again, my dream is to be able to have this production company that is cranking out more than just what I can do by myself or with my team. And Galen said something to me that I thought was really cool. He's like, would you rather be Steven Spielberg or would you rather be Steven Spielberg and Dreamworks? And I was like, interesting, And so that's where I'm kind of like thinking, yeah, let's build we've done it. It wasn't a fluke. Like Army of Frankenstein's happened, and then Gremlin built on the success, and then Jurassic Games built on the success of it. It wasn't just a fluke weird thing that couldn't happen again or be reproduced. So we found out the path to it, and now it's like, okay, I want to grow this thing into something that is sustainable and literally like 10 movies a year. Like, how do we get to do 10 movies a year with teams all across Oklahoma using the Oklahoma talent, the directors, the producers here, and doing the people that want to do it and want to work under this sort of system, and getting them making films that can be sold with the idea that, like, hey, I do enough of these, and my ideas and my thoughts and my dreams are going to be more easily heard, So.
Awesome.
I felt like that was like an hour. I feel so.
No, that was good. That was good. So we'll hear from Kyle. I mean, that is so inspiring, probably to these students. They're sitting there going, "Oh, cool! Like I'm gonna have a job at Boiling Point, right?" When you graduate. But
yes.
No, there's a lot of hope in that story and inspiration. So thank you for that, Ryan.
You're welcome.
So the question was, how did you enter? I mean, what was your educational background, and how did you enter? How did you enter the world of filmmaking, and how did you get to where you are today?
To be fair, I answered that question.
Is this working?
Do you have your water?
I'm good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Check. Uh-oh. Skip him. Oh, hey. So, yeah, I was born on a warm night in March. I am going to start in high school with the education there. I did broadcast journalism in Missouri in high school, and I had a teacher that really believed in me and everything that I was doing. I was mainly like cutting together clips of the NBA or something, making just like little music videos. So he gave me a key to the school, which he like wasn't allowed to do, and to the editing bay. And so I was like mixing all these videos and editing and everything, then I made like a VHS reel and got into Oklahoma Christian and got close to a full ride there, which like they don't do for broadcast students, which was great. And again, like just people kind of like believing in me, and hopefully I didn't let them down. Don't turn my head, ever. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Or move it up a little.
Okay, check, 1, 2. So, so basically I went to Oklahoma Christian. I studied broadcast journalism and corporate media there, so I did a double major. And then right out of college, I got a job at the Oklahoman in News OK. I was there for 7 years, and it was great because part of my job was to tell stories every day, meet different people all across the state, whether they're I don't know, they own like a restaurant or they are a Thunder basketball player, whatever. So that was great because that was my job every day. And then Matt Price is the editor of the Oklahoman, features editor. And we had this concept to do a teen superhero film, which is like Breakfast Club mixed with X-Men. And I met with him. He loves superheroes. I love superheroes. And we're like, yeah, we could do this. We could do this here in Oklahoma. So basically, met with him, and like we went over everything. And after 3 years of crowdfunding and shooting and everything else, we made that movie here at One Dead Center a few years ago, over Army of Frankensteins. And I'm just kidding. And yeah, so like I again, kind of like what I was saying is kind of like I basically got to kind of use meeting people all the time, and like I honestly believe that we couldn't make Post-Human Project in any other state because people in Oklahoma are so loving and so caring and so supportive, whether it's providing food for set or locations or whatever. So that was a great experience, and that, again, Brian mentioned this too, but that was like my film school. So of course I studied like broadcast journalism and everything, but that like doing that for 4 years was my film school, which was great. And we got to travel all around the world with that movie. We're at a Comic-Con, a San Diego Comic-Con, and then we're also at a Comic-Con in Japan. And just did, I traveled all around the world with that film, which was great to see it resonating with so many people, especially teenagers, all over the world. Also, I started just playing with toys a lot. So I saw Fantastic Mr. Fox and loved that film. Has anyone seen that? I guess probably a lot of people. So I love that film, directed by Wes Anderson, and in this kind of DSLR age that we live in, I just started playing a lot, mainly with Ninja Turtles and X-Men toys. So we created like a fan-made, recreated the intro for X-Men and for Ninja Turtles, like the 80s and 90s like intros. And that started getting picked up by like LA Times and MTV and Wired Magazine and just like hundreds of major publications all over the world, which was crazy because it's just something that I took a passion, and like Tava said, I'm a big kid and just started playing with stuff and started getting attention, just kind of posting stuff on YouTube. And then Dreamworks contacted us a couple years ago, and they hired us to basically do the same thing. Can't hear me? Uh-oh. Okay. Check. Is that better? Dreamworks called us and hired us to basically do the same thing we were doing with the X-Men and Ninja Turtle fan stuff, to recreate a show that they have called Dino Trucks, recreate the intro frame by frame as a stop motion to promote the toys, which was a great experience. And then that's kind of where Reckless Abandonment, the company that I own, the We office just a couple miles from here, really started taking off, and we've had several meetings with Nickelodeon and Illumination and with Dreamworks again. Right now we're shooting a Trolls project for them, this stop motion series that's kind of like this great, super fun content between Trolls 1 and Trolls 2, which comes out in 2020. So it's been a huge blessing, and just, man, it's been a ride. From making that first feature film to doing all of these like stop motion shorts and series. In the fall, we did a Thomas the Train, 2 different Thomas the Train series from Mattel. And yeah, a lot more coming up.
Awesome. All right, Russ, it's your turn.
So what was the
Take it
question
away.
again?
Well, before we start asking specific questions like, the most challenging things, or how do you really set up a company? I mean, some practical questions, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. But before that, just similar, just give us an entry into your filmmaking world and where you are today. Yeah.
Sure. Before I start, I think we should have a round of applause for these 2 filmmakers because of the filmmakers they employ in the state of Oklahoma.
Aww.
That's incredible. Oh my God. So, since I'm clearly the youngest person on the stage, instead of starting in high school or later, I'll start much younger. Whenever I was a kid, perhaps not so much unlike many of the people who may be here, I don't know, I was raised across the Oklahoma state line in Missouri, and at about 7 or 8 years old, I realized that my parents had ideological differences and ideological values that I did not identify with. So there were things that all of you here probably had in your house. I don't know, like a TV. We did not. there were other things like, I don't know, these theaters that you would go to, that you could go to, we didn't. And so as time went along, I found different ways to sneak in and see television every once in a while and see a movie every once in a while. And, if you think about that, all of the cultural references that you have over the course of your life, whether you're 20,
Just trade.
hello, whether you're 20 or whether you're 51, it all kind of relates back to popular culture associated with movies and television. So I remember it was probably 8 or 9 when I had one of my little sneaking sessions that I suddenly thought, wouldn't it be amazing to match music with moving pictures? Now, what a novel idea that is. So as we got older, I found different ways to sneak in, and the parental controls kind of, let off a little bit, and I started watching Rosemary's Baby and decided who Satan really is. And so, obviously not everyone here has seen Rosemary's Baby. It's an amazing American classic. You should all watch it again. So anyway, zip ahead to going to college, and interesting, all 3 of us have a journalism background. It's kind of pathetic, but I kind of faked it like they did for 20 years, finding people whose lost sons and daughters had, I'm pretty sure he was 13 at the time. And so his parents are here. So we love Booney, and he did one hell of a bang-up job on that. The second project, well, I directed that, but there were other people smarter than me who were involved in that also. But collaboration is, without question, the reason that we've had success, and any success we have moving forward, all the way from the script that arrives at our desk to talking to Chad Reinecke in the back, who will introduce us to the core of Hollywood, who will get our next film into wherever it needs to go. That's what we're all about. We're not those people who can do everything on our own. We love the collaborative process. There are formulaic ways to do things. In general, the direction that we're probably going is more, as executive producers, we'll raise millions of dollars for a project, and then we'll hire people to manage that project, looking at the end from the beginning. So if you don't know where your project is going to live, I'm not sure exactly what you're doing. So I guess that's probably what I would say at this point. We have a hell of a good time. We love doing film. I'd love to meet all of you. So there we go.
And yeah. So if you want to keep that mic, please, and then you keep it, and we'll come back down this way for this next question, is sort of segueing into kind of rebounding on what you said of knowing the kind of content you want to make. What are some factors that a company should be aware of, like informing their mission statement? We're sort of going to the beginning of maybe where some of these people are that want to form a company. How do you go about forming that mission statement and the content that, so that they can attract the right clientele?
There are 2 things that excite me a lot. One is spreadsheets. Close your ears. The second thing is putting together business plans like this. This is extremely exciting to me. If you don't have a map showing you where you're going, how are you going to get there? It just makes no sense. What we did whenever we started the company, we put together and said, we're going to do 3 simple things. We're going to produce and executive produce movies and documentaries. We're going to do some not-profit work, and then we're also going to do some corporate work, which has turned into a commercial business, thanks to people smarter than us who work alongside us. So that's really where we have been. As it relates to, I think this relates to your question, Tava, content, first and foremost, I would say whether it's a documentary or a feature film, I hope you're very interested. If you hear the phrase that's overused, passion project. We all have passion projects. I'm not sure that they're all financially viable, but we all have.
I do really appreciate that. I believe that a lot. As far as the type of content that I think you need to be looking at when you're making something, I just think that if you're in the position to want to sell your movie, then I think that you need to have some kind of a connection with the buyers and understand what the buyers are wanting. And that changes. Last year it could have been, no, we don't want Westerns. And now they're saying, do you have a Western? You know, it changes. It's completely inexplicable. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It makes no sense at all. But if you have the ability to have your pulse on what the buyers are wanting and you can jump ahead of it, then you can potentially be successful. One thing that can give you a little bit of a cheat, though, is to think about what is, forecast a couple of years. You know, look at Jurassic World. We know Jurassic World's coming out. Dinosaur Fever is going to be out. If you've got a dinosaur movie, they're going to want it, you know? So I think that's something you can also think about, too. And if you have a connection to a sales agent or distributor, ask them. Ask them what they're wanting. Because it does change. It's very difficult. I'm not sure what's going on. This one? I don't know.
Which one should he use?
It's
Thomas?
cutting out. This one? It's difficult to know, and you can't really guess. And to kind of say what you were saying is, or both you guys are saying, if you're just writing something and guessing and not knowing, I would never make a movie like that again. I think that's just too risky. It's not going to work unless you just really get lucky and lightning strikes. So I think I would always prefer to have some guidance from the person that is actually buying it.
Great. And do I need that mic, or am I still okay?
You're good.
Oh, good. Love it. Okay. So what I'm hearing is, you have to have a clear vision on your goals, whatever movie you want to make sure you've got the right, target audience. If that should be sort of defined in your mission statement if you want to start a company. But I have a feeling that there are a lot of people in here that are filmmakers, like you still are, but you were once before you opened your doors of your companies. So let's hear some practical advice and tips on how to get from. Clearly it's been an organic sort of process, so keep that in mind. Can we just see a show of hands? I don't know if it's 2 or if it's like 20 of people that have a desire to have your own company, be a part of a team. Oh boy, okay, Oklahoma, here we go.
Getting distribution for shorts, I don't even know if there is distribution for shorts. Maybe the Shorts channel, and even then, when you get on the Shorts channel, I don't know if that really does a whole lot for you. I would maybe use the experience in making short films as just think of it as preparing yourself for doing your bigger projects, and make all the mistakes you need to make in your shorts, and then when you get to direct your feature, then you'll have learned those mistakes and learn from them. But when you get to your feature, talk to me or talk to a sales agent or find out if you can get some pointers on what to put in your feature. That would give it a much better chance of being excitable to a sales agent or to a distributor. There are certain things you can do with your movie that will kill it, that you wouldn't think that it would. And there are certain things that you can put in there that everybody goes crazy for, and they're not super common sense things. They're not something that you would necessarily think of off the top of your head. So there are some tips and tricks there, but sci-fi and horror do well, and you can do well with them if you're doing the right kind of sci-fi and horror. I'll give you an example right now. Maybe your horror movie is a slasher in the woods kind of movie. Well, if the buyers are saying, hey, look, I've got 1,000 slasher in the woods movies right now, I don't need another one. But if they say, can you make your slasher a robot? If the robot is slashing people in the woods and it's sci-fi, then all of a sudden you've got something people are interested in. You would have never have known that, but you can just make that slight change to your story and your script, and then you could potentially, and by the way, I'm not saying that actually is something Galen said lately, but that could change next week. You can, if you have a beat on that, you have an advantage, because you're making something that people are already asking for. And I think that if you're gonna try to fund a feature, like we've been saying, if you're gonna try to fund a feature and produce a feature and direct a feature yourself, you're really rolling the dice, man, if you don't have any kind of guidance or any kind of beat on what is gonna be potentially profitable. And if you can really get there, see if you can impress a sales agent with your shorts and then say, hey, I've got an idea for a feature, and let them be involved with it from the very beginning, from your outline to your concept to everything. Something that's very fascinating about movie sales from my perspective, and maybe these guys have a different outlook on it, but if you talk about what sells a movie, there's things that are key, right? There's the artwork, the key art, the title, the trailer, your synopsis, I guess, and maybe your log line. Did I say that already? So it's like nowhere in there that I say the movie itself. Okay, it's you got to think of it this way, and this is what a distributor told me. If it's not interesting enough for me to just pick it up off the shelf at the store, it's not interesting enough. So think about that when you're making your movies, right? Think about, does 17-year-old me find this concept interesting enough that I would choose it out of iTunes, or I would pick it up off the shelf in Walmart for whatever reason? That's really, really key. And then think about your movie. Does it have trailer moments? Does it have something that looks like, ooh, this is a Hollywood movie. This has a giant something in it. The movie's about things like dramas and comedies and things that are difficult to translate into other languages, don't really sell as easily for indie filmmakers like us. So if you're thinking about something, I mean, it's stupid, but like explosions or giant monsters or creatures or something like that you can put into your movie, or sci-fi or robots or something that's like, I'll just make it 2 words, be impressive. Just be impressive. Show me something in your trailer that blows me away, whether it's a concept or a title that's never been thought of before or something. Don't think that if you do what everyone else does, you'll get noticed, because there's thousands of what everyone else does out there. So I don't know if that answers your question, but there you go.
That's great.
What was your name again? Kylan? Kylan, first of all, thank you for making movies in Oklahoma, and please don't stop. So, yeah, round of applause for that. Onward and upward. First of all, are you in a place where you feel like you can allow other people to kind of take over parts of your baby, or do you need to do it all on your own?
No, I'm definitely I'm getting used to collaboration. I'm like, okay, I can write this, I know how to direct, but I think there's someone better who can edit. Who can edit this instead. I think there's someone better on sound or lighting, or even who could help with touch ups on scripts.
Gotcha. So, Kylan, Chad, you need to stand up. Kylan, please meet Chad Reinecke back in the back. Chad is a sales agent. I don't know if he does shorts. Do we have any other sales agents here? Okay, so if I were you, I might just track him down and say, hey, it may be a fit, it may not be. That'd be my advice. As far as the other ancillary pieces associated with it, I think everything that the two of these guys have said is beyond critical. But if you can let somebody else, handle your baby for a little bit, then let them do it instead of you. You can put your brain power into a new movie and get you your feature. That's what I'd say. Yeah, much success.
Any other questions?
Joey, Robert's actor. She's a filmmaker. We're having trouble getting money to actually get our stuff going. We've got the script, we've got our actors that are just there to help out, but budget is always an issue because we both have full-time jobs, so we're doing everything on our spare time, but bills and all that stuff is just killing us, of course. What are you guys', because you obviously got a break, with the 100,000 here to do this stuff, but what about the people that just have the struggle to find the extra income to actually get good products out there? What do you guys think we should do to increase our income stream, that kind of thing?
I think that goes back to my don't quit the day job. Yeah. And it sounds like you're not. So just from my perspective, what was your name again? Joey. Whenever people do come to us and they are in situations kind of like yours, I certainly wouldn't say quit your job. I would say, is there a way that you can pursue your passion outside of your job? And maybe for the first job, that's the first film, maybe that's what you need to do, because then you've got a bit of a body of work, so maybe, it sounds like you're the dynamic duo. You've got somebody who's going to film you, you want to be filmed, And so I would get some direction from people smarter than you, which there may not be any, but if there are, I might talk to some of those folks and get some direction. And then just the systems and processes, make sure you have everything in line. I mean, make sure that you're competent in just really core competencies. Make sure you've got a script. Make sure the script makes sense. Make sure the casting is correct. And if it's just a short, that's fine. But have other people look at it. Get feedback and collaborate with others who can really help you make something. But at the core, would we fund something like that? If you came to us and said, we want $25,000 for our project, I would say, can you show us your body of work? So, it's like, what is it that you have that we could be really passionate about? Because in the end, as these two gentlemen have articulated extremely well, really this business is marketing. So.
And expand on marketing, just perseverance and everything else it takes to make a movie. It's just to do crowdfunding campaigns or different fundraising activities. For our superhero film, we did 3 different benefit concerts. Where we, had ticketed event that was like, so it's for a teen superhero film. Like that was great for us, and I directed like 50 music videos at that point, so I was really connected with bands in Oklahoma, kind of thing. But I kind of do the Three Amigo analogy. We talked about this earlier, but basically, who's seen Three Amigos? Am I too old? Okay, good. So they have the infamous El Guapo, right? And they have to defeat him. So for you, overcoming your deal is making the movie, right? So they sat around and they're like, what can we do? And some old lady's like, we can sew. And it's like, yeah, that's what we're good at. And that's how they defeated him, is they made all these costumes and tricked him. So basically together, try to figure out as a team, like what you're really good at and use that to market your movie.
Yeah, it really is a chicken and the egg thing, because you need to be able to have a body of work to show that someone can invest in you. But how do you get that body of work if you don't have money to make the body of work? But I think it is kind of a beg, borrow, and steal mentality. Getting a team together. I just can't express enough how important your team is. Because the team that you build now will be, definitely the team that hopefully the team that you move forward with and grow with. So, find people that are they're in the same position, that are willing to donate their time and resources. And it really, people make, movies for very, very little money that get distribution. I mean, I think my friend Jeff Hall made theirs for, it was like $500 or something, and ended up getting distribution. But it was all just, sweat equity, and somebody had a camera, somebody had a boom mic, somebody had time to donate. I mean, I don't really know how else to do that. If you can do it on micro budget, but you do need to have that body of work, and then you get to a point where the money doesn't become an issue anymore because people are coming to you and saying, well, we have this budget to make this movie, we want you guys to do it because we've seen that you guys can do it. So just keep figuring out a way, and there's no secret sauce to it. You can do crowdfunding, you can do benefit events. I mean, you just gotta, if you want to do it and you're passionate enough to do it, you'll find a way to make it happen. Right?
And Kyle, tell them about the 48-hour film race. I don't know, because you've had
Oh,
good
yeah.
experience with that.
Yeah, we've had a team of, I think we've done 4 of the Oklahoma City 48-hour film race. So 48-hour film race is a worldwide deal, and Oklahoma City has a chapter in it. I believe it's in July every year. And so basically, you form a team, you can meet other creatives and kind of create a team. And that's a great way to get a start for content as well. That basically you get all of these parameters and you kind of write it, shoot it, edit it in 2 days, and you made something together.
On practically no budget.
Yeah.
Right. So you just do it. Cool. Couple more questions before we start to wrap it up. Stay tuned. I know, thanks for all of your patience. We do have a couple of drawings at the end, and as Jeanette's taking the mic back to the back, speaking of collaboration and networking, the Dead Center Film Festival is right around the corner, and so if you make sure you stay to the end, and the reason I'm saying that is because we're drawing a pair of passes for Dead Center, and while you just immerse yourself in the awesome, 5-day festival here, 4-day festival here, you're standing in lines, and and going to parties and things like that. That's where things happen. You know, you can connect with other people and maybe, you know, meet somebody who's struggling in the same way, and you come together and your team grows. And so stay to the end for the drawing. And we have a second drawing as well too, which we'll mention in a minute. Are we ready for that question? Okay.
Yeah, I know that like a good bit of art and everything is very regional, like this place good in China, this place good in
We can't hear.
Yeah. That better? Yeah, it's much better. Okay. No, I know that marketing these films is quite regional. Like this place good in China, this place good in Australia, and everything. How do you run down, you know, the specifics of what type of movie plays well where, and then the more specific information about what they really desire in a movie and everything like that? And do you ever try to bracket that down and then match a movie to that market?
It's more about what not to do than it is what to do. So it's more about what to avoid than it is what to add into the movie. When our sales agent watched Jurassic Games, he kind of laughed afterwards and said, "We've got something for every single market in the movie," which was kind of funny because we did. I mean, we put all kinds of stuff in there, but it's more about what to do to not cripple your movie in Australia or China. And that's, so you can make a movie that is perfectly acceptable in every territory, but if you do something like, for example, one I can think of off the top of my head is like time travel. You know, if you do something with time travel, then Asian culture sees time travel as taboo, and it has to do with their, you know, their faith and their belief in their ancestors and things like that. And so they just ban time travel movies over there. So if you want to have your movie not make potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars of sales in China and Japan, make a time travel movie, you know? So that's what I'm going with that. I don't sit down and think, I'm gonna make something exactly for China. You know, we're not trying to do that. We're just trying to give the movie the best chance it can have to make as much money as it can internationally. How would who know that?
Like, how do we find out that information? Like, I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
How did you find out about
Because you're a sales agent.
Because of okay, so the sales agent has the connection with the buyers, the direct connection with the buyers, he's friends with them. So, and he just knows over the experience of years of working with them that when I talk about being like involved from the very beginning with your script, you know, weird things in Jurassic Games were like, hey, this is the 15th Jurassic Games, and the agent's like, can you make it the 8th Jurassic Games? I was like, yeah, why? Because 8's a lucky number in China. And I said, okay, well, let's really make it. China will love this. They're gonna have a scene where they're eating takeout Chinese food. Is there anything? Real? And I was like, is there anything I should know about that? And he goes, yes. Do not stick the chopsticks down into the rice and leave them there. That's a sign of death and unlucky. And I'm like, okay, good to know. You know, so it's stuff like that. You know, it's stuff like casting choices. It's stuff like, unfortunately, the rest of the world, this is interesting, the rest of the world is not nearly as progressive as the domestic territory is as far as women in starring roles or minorities in starring roles. It's that kind of stuff sucks. And it's stuff that you have to decide when you're casting your film or doing your film. And I know some guys that are working on a female action movie. And I know Galen is saying, I don't know. I mean, female action movies are hard. They're hard to sell in China, you know. And it's not. It sucks because the rest of the world is not caught up and backwards. And you might think, well, wait a minute, Katniss Everdeen, hello, right? But that works here, and Katniss Everdeen works in China because that's a $150 billion franchise and a huge thing that's going to do well no matter what. So we're looking at smaller budgets. We're looking at, you know, giving our small budget movies the best chance of success. And there are parameters, a lot of things. And you ask, how do you know? I have a relationship with a sales agent who talks to buyers constantly. And if anybody here wants to know, if they have a script or a pitch or an idea, email me, and I will shoot it off to him and see what he says. I asked him one time, I was like, hey man, I've got a lot of friends that are filmmakers, and they're always saying, hey, I've got an idea for a movie, and I was like, am I gonna bug you if I just always send these to you? And he goes, no, please. He goes, I'm always looking for, that's the weird thing about this is that there's a lot of movies that don't get distribution, but sales agents and distributors are always looking for movies. Right. It's weird, but they just gotta be the right movies. So if you guys have concepts and scripts, like I wanna open up a gateway for you guys to say like, hey, is what I'm doing viable? Is it marketable? And I'm not, Galen's not every sales agent, but he is a sales agent with connections to buyers and with certain types of genres. And I think that he would be more than happy to take you don't even need a script, just your synopsis. Just like, what's your movie about? And he'll tell you yes or no right away without any kind of hesitation, like, yep, that's a great idea. Can you make it for X amount of dollars? If you can, that movie will make money. And that's how movies get made.
So maybe we need to bring Galen in.
Galen is going to be at Dead Center, speaking at Dead Center. So I would love for you guys to meet him, and he's going to be there talking on a distribution panel, and he'll be very informative. So,
which is Friday, June 8th. Is that right?
That's
the distribution panel?
Is it? Yeah, Friday, June 8th is the distribution panel at Dead Center, and he'll be here. Yay. Sure. Did that answer your question, sir? How's Booney? Good. Cool.
Tommy, one thing that I would add is what goes on. So whenever a director like Booney comes to us with an idea, what goes on inside my brain is scary things like, well, beyond film, but return on investment, putting together a private placement memorandum. If it's a $500,000 film, then it's like, okay, I'm going to go ask people for money, and what they want to know is who cares. So that's when we go hire people who are much smarter than us, like you were saying, a sales agent, because that's what they're going to tell you. But ultimately, we have to be responsible, not really in a fiduciary way, but if people are betting, which is a ridiculous bet to bet on movies, but if they're doing that, we need to be able to say, Booney's come here with an idea, here's what it is, here's where we think it's going to live, and this is why we think it's going to live there is because we've talked to this person who knows this person in Hollywood, they're connected to Paramount, and they love the film, they're going to do it. So then the investors are happy, and Booney's like, let's make a movie. So it's kind of all it comes full circle. It really comes back to people who are connected with distributors, which is really what you just said.
Okay, we have time for a couple more. One more.
Hey, Ryan Hauser. I just wanted to, I went to the American film market with a film I had made, sort of a passion project, and kind of went out there. It can be very demoralizing if you don't go in with a plan. You can sit down and start to talk to the person and start to tell them what it's about, and they're like, whoa, I don't care. It's like, who's in it? Is there a name in it of any kind? Or is there something that sells on the front of the DVD? And so it's kind of like a meat market in a way, and they're buying by the pound. And if you don't go in with a plan, no matter how good your film is, they're not even going to look at it. They're not, I mean, it's like you sit down and make a pitch, and if you don't have, and I did not have a sales agent or anything, so I'm walking in there very naive and just, well, this is a great film, you want to hear? No, they didn't want to hear about it. I didn't get 2 words out. Leave us a copy and don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. But my question for you guys is, how does the digital market affected that? Because, I mean, if I ever had a day, back in my day, I mean, it was DVDs, obviously. Now everything's a lot more digital, and you talk about foreign distribution. How does the internet affect that, the sales and so forth, when you're going into small markets? I mean, you mentioned Poland, some other places. So how does it affect that?
What was your name again?
It's Ryan.
Right, Ryan. First of all, I'm really sorry you had that experience at AFM. That said, I have an alternative for what happened with us, and maybe this is helpful, I don't know. Last year, we had a film that nobody's starred in a town, Tulsa, that nobody knows about a subject, LGBT, that a lot of the country hates. and it included some footage from Oral Roberts, which he's dead. And so we're like, well, let's just be crazy and go to AFM with this. So what we did is we got a sales agent, and so it was Chad. And so what we did is we started 6 months before the process, and we had a very specific process that we went through. The long and the short of it is, like I mentioned earlier, last month it went into worldwide distribution. So we had a half dozen to 10 appointments already set up, keeping in mind that the American film market doesn't generally accept people with pitches. Generally, it's they're selling their the body of work that you have. That's what they're doing there. And so we had all of those set up with major companies. And so from that was kind of an alternative experience that we had. So maybe that offers hope to your experience. Again, I'm sorry that happened. So we didn't make $1 million, but yet. So we'll see how that goes. As far as digital, I would say that that's ever changing, and probably these two can speak to that more than I can. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of my mind's kind of blowing right now of just all kinds of feedback. But there's video on demand, there's SV video on demand, subscription video on demand like Netflix, YouTube, all kinds of different outlets. But yeah, it's ever evolving, it's ever changing. For me, you guys heard my story. Like basically, I played with toys that got millions of views that then led to the next thing, and that's kind of the route that got me here. But yeah, I don't know. It's just ever changing, ever evolving.
Hard copy sales of DVDs are still viable, and it's still there. Overseas DVDs still sell really well, and they still do here. It hasn't died yet. It's dying for sure, but it hasn't died yet. Each territory has there's the UK version of iTunes, there's the Polish version of iTunes. So there are digital platforms in all the different territories that are released just the same way. I think that you need to think about the reach of a distributor compared to the reach of yourself. And when you're trying to put a movie on there yourself, which you can, you could find an aggregator and figure that out, or pay to have that done or whatever. Like, no one's going to see it. No one's going to care. And I think the point of getting with a distributor that has a lot of reach is that they are going to get your movie out there to a lot of people. The story I kind of like to tell a little bit here is when I was playing music in my rock bands, we didn't have a label or anything, and we just tried to sell our CDs ourselves, and we printed them up ourselves and sold maybe over 10 years, like 1,000 copies maybe, of our CDs over 10 years to our fans and stuff. And when Army of Frankensteins was picked up by Shout Factory, in the first 30 days, they sold 35,000 DVDs. And that was just like mind-blowing to me. I was like, and it was because of their reach, You have to be able to there's a big difference between what a distributor can do with their reach versus what you can do by yourself. Redbox will buy 60,000 copies of it. Walmart will buy 30,000 copies or whatever of your movie, So that's where you can sell a lot of copies really quickly, but you're not going to get in front. You can't just walk into the Walmart corporate and hand them your movie. They're not going to buy it, no matter how good it is, So you've got to be able to have those connections. And I know I've talked to lots of people that have gone to AFM with very similar situations. My situation was always with a sales agency that was on one of the mid to higher floors at the hotel there at AFM. And it's a very strange hierarchy, but you've got sort of everybody that's lounging around that has badges in the lobby that are trying to get meetings, and then every floor that goes higher is it's kind of like a weird high school hierarchy or something, with like Universal Pictures is on the top floor, you know what I'm saying? But there's lots of wheeling and dealing going on, and it's rare that a filmmaker with their movie can come in and set enough meetings or find enough people when High Octane Pictures, I know, had over 100 meetings easily with all the different buyers around there. And so our movie was pitched to just at AFM, in 100 different meetings to different buyers. So, that's, and what you're saying kind of goes back to what I was saying is like, do you have something in your movie that is blowing people away? And when we went to our third AFM with Jurassic Games, they believed in the movie enough to buy a trailer for it. So if you've seen the trailers are going around, and you see them like a million times on the bus or on the walls or whatever. And so Jurassic Games was up there, the trailer, and it was crazy because it was like one of the most talked about that was the best investment they made. It was like a couple of $1,000 to do that trailer thing, and it like everybody was talking about it, you know. And I think that's the whole deal is like, are you doing something that's going to cause buzz? You know, can you do that? Can you do something that gets people's attention? Because, you know, we've got Ryan Merriman and Perry Reeves who are helping us, no doubt, with their star power in the movie, but the movie was not sold necessarily on the star power of the cast. It was sold on the dinosaurs, you know. So do you have? I'm not saying everyone needs to go out and make a dinosaur movie, but I'm just, you know, do you have that thing that people want and are looking for? And I don't know, if we went to Jurassic Games just by ourselves, like without a sales agent, I don't think we would have had a whole lot of luck. I don't think, you know, you have to have that connection with a sales agency, I think. That's how we did it.
Is it a quick answer to say, how do you get a sales agent? Like, what's the best route, or are there multiple routes that we maybe don't have time
I mean,
for today?
the quick answer is that for us, if you make something that is what they want, we got lucky and they found us and they came to us. I think that I have a story I'd like to tell it is really quick, I promise. Was that the lights flashing, like playing me off?
Yeah. We're
Okay.
almost done.
You know, if you've got a movie and you've made it and you've spent the money and you got it finished, it's in the can, and you're pitching it to sales agents, all you got to do is just call them up and pitch it to them, because like I said, they're looking for content. Mm-hmm. If you're getting rejected and rejected and rejected and rejected, rather than spend a bunch of money to self-promote that movie, I think you've made a movie that is not going to do very well, unfortunately. So take that money you'd spend on marketing, talk to one of those sales agents and say, hey, what kind of movie do you want, and make that movie. So I think that it's not that hard to just call them up, find out who they are, call them up, and just, you know, like Kyle said, send 200 emails until one of them answers you back. Be really persistent.
And always have your elevator pitch ready.
One other thing I'd say about sales agents, just like producers, directors, that sort of thing, it's either a good fit or it's not a good fit. So I would be very cautious making a decision for whomever it is that's taking your baby to the market. You just need to make sure it's the right it's the right person. There are a lot of good sales agents, and sometimes they're not as good.
How do you determine that? What I would say, well, there's that. Did your movie sale? But also, I think for us, for our production company, it goes a little bit deeper than that. A lot of the people that we have worked with over the years, we continue to work with them over and over again. So it's really relationship based. So I want to sit down and I want to grab a cup of coffee with you. I want to kind of, you know, see if there's a connection. And then sometimes a year later, we'll work together. So it's that for us.
Have a lawyer look over your contract with them. Yeah, I would make sure that any contract that a sales agent has you sign, having a lawyer look over it and just make sure that it's fair for you. I mean, you know, they understand how to play the game, and they understand that filmmakers are excited, you know, and will pretty much give away the farm just to get their movie out there. They know that, so just be careful about that. You bet. I don't know, is he?
Chad's great.
Chad's great? Yeah.
Just go talk to Chad.
Yeah,
So-
go talk to Chad.
That's how you find a sales agent.
There you go.
We have everything and everybody that we need in this state. You guys know that, right? I mean, we clearly have the filmmakers, the talent, the businesses. We have, I mean, even here tonight, I mean, we have some of our largest vendors here, NGP Film, NGP Productions, Ginger House Films is here, is a wardrobe company. They're in the back. Doug Scott here has an insurance company. Obviously, Chad Reinecke, he's an attorney, and Michelle DeLong is here, Chad, sales agent. Ricky Masler's a casting director. I mean, we have everything that we need. We have all the perfect ingredients. So collaborate, network, come back to these things. We do these as often as we can at Dead Center. Just a quick plug, it's a day of free panels on June 9th. Even if you don't have a pass, you should get one, but if you aren't able to attend the whole festival, you can come just for the day of panels on June 9th, which will be at ACM at UCO. It'll be panels similar to this on directing and acting and producing and a lot of different things. So let's give a huge round of applause to our panelists tonight.